In the silence of space, two humans found each other. The small craft floated silently through the dark expanse of space, its hull scratched and battered from debris. The human inside, a man named Kale, stared at the console that flickered weakly, warning him of low power. He had been drifting for days, maybe weeks. Time was meaningless when nothing moved around him except stars. The colony he had once called home had been destroyed in a sudden attack, leaving him as the only survivor, or so he believed. His thoughts were heavy, but he had no choice. He had to survive. Kale checked the sensors again. The life support was failing slowly, and he had only hours before he would be left in nothing but vacuum. He looked out the small viewport. Stars sparkled in the distance, but beyond them, nothing moved. Space felt endless and merciless. He touched the panel where a warning light flashed red. His breathing echoed in the cramped cabin. Even the hum of the engines had faded into silence. He pressed a button trying to send a distress signal, but the transmitter was weak. The frequency he tried had been unused for years, and he doubted anyone would hear it. Then a flicker appeared on the screen, a weak, irregular signal, barely visible. Kale blinked, unsure if it was a glitch. He reached for the console and adjusted the receiver. The signal was repeating, pulsing in short bursts. It was coded. Human code. He froze. How could another human be out here? No one was supposed to survive. He leaned closer, trying to decipher the message, but the words were fragmented, broken, like pieces of a puzzle. He felt a sudden spark of hope mixed with fear. He was not alone. As Kale tried to respond, the sensors detected movement ahead. His heart pounded. A massive alien fleet had appeared, moving silently across the stars. He could see the shapes of their ships. Sleek, dark, and deadly. They did not slow down. They did not hesitate. Kale knew that if they detected him, there would be no mercy. He had learned about these aliens during the colony attacks. They hunted humans not because humans were weak, but because humans could adapt too quickly. They feared that. Kale shut down the main systems, letting the craft drift like a piece of space debris. He held his breath as the fleet passed by, feeling every second stretch into an eternity. The signal continued, repeating, stubborn and alive. His mind raced. Whoever was sending it was smart, careful, and possibly as desperate as he was. He wondered if the person knew about the aliens. Did they know how close death really was? Did they have a plan? Hours passed. Dale kept silent, listening to the soft hum of the emergency systems and the faint, repeating pulses of the signal. The signal changed slightly, becoming clearer, almost like a voice trying to form words. Kale reached out, trembling, and touched the interface, trying to respond. "This is Kale," he whispered. There was no reply, only silence and the flickering light of the signal. He waited, fearing that even breathing too loudly might alert the aliens. Time stretched on, but he could not move. He could not think beyond the moment. The signal pulsed again, stronger this time. Kale watched as the console began to display fragments of coordinates. His pulse raced. Someone had found him, or at least knew where he was. But why now? Why after all this time? His mind ran through the possibilities. Could it be a trap? Were the aliens using this to lure him? He knew better than to trust easily. But his hope, buried deep under despair, forced him to keep trying. He sent back a small, cautious reply, using the weak transmitter and old human encryption. The console hummed in response, acknowledging the message. Kale felt a strange mix of fear and relief. He was not alone. Someone somewhere was out there, reaching for him through the void. He wondered what this person looked like, how long they had survived, what hardships they had faced. The thought of another human being alive made him almost cry. Yet the danger was still very real. The alien fleet had not gone. They were still out there, moving through the darkness, hunting everything they considered a threat. Suddenly the craft jolted. Kale's stomach twisted as sensors went haywire. The fleet had changed course, turning toward his location. Panic rose in him, sharp and cold. He quickly activated the stealth protocols, hiding the energy signatures of the craft. He held his breath as alien scanners passed over him. For a moment he thought they would detect him, but then the fleet continued on its path. Kale exhaled slowly, sweat dripping down his forehead. Survival required patience, cunning, and luck, all in equal measure. Kale checked the signal again. It had become almost coherent. The other humans' messages were fragmentary, but he could make out words, coordinates, survival, avoid, meet. Someone was guiding him, carefully, through space. His hope strengthened. He knew he had to follow these instructions, even with the aliens nearby. Every choice could mean life or death. Every move required precision. He adjusted the course, setting the craft to drift slowly toward the location indicated in the signal. As he drifted, memories of the colony flashed in his mind. He remembered friends, laughter, moments of ordinary life that now felt distant and fragile. He had thought he would never see anyone again. Yet here, in the silence of space, another human had reached out. He imagined the person, maybe a woman, maybe a man, alone like him, struggling to survive as scared and determined as he was. He felt a strange connection, a bond born not from familiarity, but from shared loneliness and the will to endure. The hours blurred together. Kale's food and water were running low. The life support warned him again, weakly, that he would not last long without repair. He had to reach the meeting point quickly. He thought about the risk. The alien fleet could detect him at any moment. Yet he could not turn back. The signal was a lifeline, and he was willing to take the chance. Every sense was alert. Every calculation mattered. He monitored the sensors constantly, adjusting the drift, conserving energy, and keeping the craft as quiet as possible. Suddenly the signal pulsed more urgently. Kale leaned forward, heart racing. The coordinates were close. He had to make a choice: proceed and risk detection, or hide and wait for the aliens to pass. He chose action. He had no other choice. Time was running out. He adjusted the trajectory, carefully maneuvering the damaged craft with the last reserves of power. Each movement was deliberate, precise. The stars streaked past the viewport as the craft slowly changed course, approaching the location the signal indicated. Kale's hands shook, not just from fear, but from the realization that he was about to meet another human for the first time in who knew how long. The thought made him almost forget the danger, but the blinking red lights of the emergency systems reminded him otherwise. The alien fleet was still out there, somewhere, waiting for a mistake. He focused on the task, breathing slowly, moving methodically. He had trained for emergencies, but nothing in training could prepare a person for the isolation of space, for the desperate hope of finding another human alive. The signal became more consistent, guiding him precisely. It led him past asteroid fields, debris from long-destroyed stations, and remnants of ships that had once carried other humans. Each obstacle was a test, each maneuver critical. Kale felt his heart pounding as he followed the signal, knowing that any misstep could end everything. He adjusted the craft's thrusters with trembling hands, navigating through the dangers with care. Finally, faint shapes appeared on the sensors. Large objects, metallic, hollow, abandoned but intact. Kale recognized them as remnants of a human research outpost long thought lost. Relief surged through him. The signal was coming from there. He approached slowly, trying to remain hidden, fearing that the aliens might also be monitoring the area. The closer he got, the stronger the signal became, almost like a heartbeat in the vast silence. He prepared to dock, his hands steady now despite exhaustion. As he entered the docking bay, Kale saw the signs of life immediately. Lights flickered on, powered by emergency generators. The place was old, damaged, but functional. And then he saw her. A figure, moving cautiously, almost blending with the shadows. She had spotted him too. They froze, unsure of what to do, but recognition sparked instantly. Two humans, alone in a place where no other human should exist, staring at each other across the distance. Relief, disbelief, fear, and hope all collided in that moment. The woman stepped forward, hands slightly raised, careful not to make sudden movements. Her eyes were wary, scanning Cale for danger, but then softened as she realized he meant no harm. Cale mirrored her gesture, lowering his arms. Neither spoke immediately. Words were unnecessary. In the silence of space, the mere presence of another human was enough. The signal had brought them together. The impossible had happened. They had found each other. For a moment, the enormity of the moment struck Cale. After weeks of drifting alone, facing the infinite emptiness, fearing death at every turn, he was no longer alone. There was someone to share the burden, someone to plan with, someone who understood the stakes without explanation. The silence of the space station felt less oppressive now, filled with the faint hum of emergency power and the quiet acknowledgement of survival. The woman whose name was Mira finally spoke. Her voice was soft, cautious but steady. "You made it." Cale nodded, unable to form words at first. He simply nodded back, relief washing over him. Mira gestured to the console, showing him the messages she had sent, the careful guidance she had offered through the signal. Cale realized that their reunion was not random. She had been trying, searching, hoping as desperately as he had. They had both reached out, across the void, and found one another. As they worked together to stabilize the station's systems, Cale and Mira shared brief stories of survival. Nothing extravagant, just the basic facts: how they escaped, what dangers they had faced, how they had avoided detection. Each revelation brought them closer, forming a fragile trust. Yet the threat of the aliens lingered like a shadow. They knew that their reunion was only temporary. The alien fleet could return at any moment, and they would have to move carefully. But for now, they had each other. That was enough to keep them alive. They began planning their next steps. The station had limited power, limited supplies, and limited time. They needed to figure out where to go next, how to stay hidden, and how to survive long enough to find out if there were any other humans left. Cale looked at the signal console again. There were fragments of other messages, hints of human activity far beyond their location. It was faint, uncertain, but it was hope. And in the silence of space, hope was the most dangerous and precious thing they could have. As night fell, or what passed for night in a station orbiting a dead star, Cale and Mira took turns watching the monitors. They were alert, cautious, and exhausted. Every noise, every flicker of light could signal danger. Yet they also allowed themselves moments of quiet conversation, laughter even, small human things that reminded them of what they had lost and why survival mattered. The universe was vast, indifferent, and deadly, but they were no longer alone. The stars outside the viewport seemed less cold now. Cale watched Mira adjust the station sensors, noting the small adjustments that made the difference between life and death. In her careful, precise movements, he saw the determination that had kept her alive. He realized that their reunion was more than just luck. It was skill, patience, and the unbreakable will of humans to endure against impossible odds. That thought brought him courage. They could survive. Together, maybe they could even fight back. Hours passed, blending into a strange rhythm of work, rest, and vigilance. They shared what little food they had, fixed minor damages to the station, and monitored the signal for any new messages. Cale felt a strange peace, something he had not felt since before the colony was destroyed. There was purpose again, and it came from simply being alive, being together, and knowing that someone else cared about survival as much as he did. Yet the shadow of the alien fleet never left. Cale knew that this moment of reunion could be fleeting. They could be discovered at any time. Every plan they made had to account for that. But for the first time in weeks, maybe months, he allowed himself to hope. They had each other, and that meant the fight was not over. The silence of space still surrounded them, but it was no longer empty. Two humans had found each other, and in that connection lay the spark of survival. As the first light from the distant star reached the station, Cale and Mira stood together, looking out at the endless expanse. The universe was vast, full of dangers, and yet full of possibilities. They knew that this was only the beginning. The signal had led them here, but it would take more than signals to survive the challenges ahead. They would have to be smart, careful, and brave. But for now, they had done the impossible. In the silence of space, they had found each other, and that was a beginning. Mira moved cautiously through the ruined corridors of the research station. Every step echoed softly, reminding her of the emptiness around her. Years alone had made her careful, precise. She had learned to trust nothing, to avoid detection, and to survive on whatever she could find. Her eyes scanned the damaged walls, the broken consoles, and the shattered panels. She had lived here for years, hidden, studying the movements of alien patrols and the silent patterns of space around the dead star. Life had become a routine of hiding and waiting, each day a test of patience. The signal she had been sending for so long flickered on her old transmitter. It was risky, almost reckless. Using this frequency could attract attention, and she knew the aliens monitored even old human frequencies for signs of survivors. But she had no choice. If there were others out there, they would not survive alone. The signal was her gamble, a small hope cast into the void. She had already learned to hide her presence from the patrols, but she had to make contact. She adjusted the signal, making it stronger, more precise. She included coordinates, encrypted codes, small hints that only another human could understand. Mira paused as she heard a distant hum from the station's outer hall. Alien drones were near. She froze, heart racing. Every movement had to be calculated. If they detected her, there would be no escape. She pressed herself against the wall, listening. The sound passed, fading into the darkness outside. She exhaled slowly, knowing how close she had come to being discovered. The years of isolation had sharpened her instincts. Every sound, every vibration mattered. She had learned to survive in this silent, dangerous world, and she would not fail now. The signal continued, persistent and unyielding. Mira knew it would eventually find someone. She had watched the stars and the signals for months, waiting, adjusting, hoping. Finally, the sensors indicated a response. Someone had received it. Someone else had survived. Her heart leapt. This was what she had been waiting for. Another human, another survivor. She quickly recalculated the safest route to reach them, but a new danger appeared. Alien drones were moving closer, drawn perhaps by the faint emissions of her signal. She had no choice. She had to act. Mira activated the station's emergency engines, damaged but still functional, and prepared for a dangerous escape. She opened the external airlocks cautiously, feeling the vacuum press against her protective suit. The station was fragile, old, but it could still move. She guided it slowly, carefully, past fields of debris and destroyed satellites. Her hands moved with practiced precision, navigating the damaged craft through the treacherous space. Every second was critical. Every error could be fatal. As she moved, she thought about the life she had led alone. Years of solitude had hardened her, made her wary, but it had also made her resilient. She remembered the colony, the laughter, the ordinary moments that now felt distant and impossible. She thought of the humans she had lost, the friends and families gone in an instant. And yet, here was hope. Someone else had survived. Someone she could reach. The thought gave her strength. The silence of space was no longer total. There was a reason to keep moving, a reason to survive. Suddenly, the station jolted as alien drones scanned the area. Mira's pulse quickened. She adjusted the engines, maneuvering the fragile station to avoid detection. Her mind raced, calculating trajectories, timing movements with precision. The drones passed close enough to see, almost touch, but they moved on, uninterested for the moment. She allowed herself a brief sigh, but there was no time to rest. The response to her signal had confirmed that someone else was out there. She had to reach them before the aliens returned. Hours passed as she navigated through the debris fields. Mira kept close watch on her sensors, detecting small movements, tiny changes in light and sound. Every anomaly could signal danger. She used old human engineering tricks, simple but effective, to confuse alien scanners. Small bursts of energy here and there, false signals, nothing that could be traced back to her. It was a dangerous game, one she had learned through years of careful study, but it worked. The drones followed false paths, giving her just enough space to move closer to her target. The coordinates from the other human's signal grew stronger. Mira felt her heart beat faster. The hope that had guided her for so long was finally taking shape. She imagined him, drifting through space, alone, desperate, trying to survive just as she had. The thought of meeting him, of finally connecting with another human being, filled her with a strange warmth. Yet the threat of the alien drones never left her mind. She had to stay focused, precise, careful. Any mistake could end everything. Mira carefully approached an abandoned alien wreck nearby. It was massive, dark, and hollow, a graveyard of past battles. She docked her station cautiously, blending with the shadows. The wreck offered cover, a chance to avoid detection. She moved through its corridors carefully, listening, watching, every sense alert. Signs of a violent battle were everywhere. Scorched walls, broken machinery, empty compartments. It was a dangerous place, but it was necessary. Somewhere inside, she hoped to find clues, maybe even the other human. As she explored, she discovered data logs from previous occupants. The record showed fear, desperation, and warnings about humans. The aliens were not attacking randomly. Humans were targeted for their adaptability, their resourcefulness, their ability to survive against impossible odds. Mira realized the enormity of what she was facing. Survival was not just about escaping. It was about being smarter, faster, and more unpredictable than the alien hunters. The logs also suggested that humans had survived in secret, scattered, hidden. She was not alone, but time was critical. The station's emergency lights flickered as Mira continued deeper into the wreck. She adjusted her suit's controls, keeping her movements silent, avoiding debris that could make noise. The signal from the other human pulsed again, guiding her, providing hope and direction. She followed it carefully, navigating past obstacles, through narrow passages, and around broken machinery. Her mind remained calm even as her body tensed, prepared for any sudden danger. Finally, Mira reached a section of the wreck where the signal was strongest. She paused, sensing that she was close. The pulse was almost tangible, like a heartbeat in the void. She knew that the other human was near, but the aliens might also be watching. Her hands moved over the console, adjusting, preparing for the final approach. Every calculation mattered. Every second counted. The signal flickered once more, clearer than before, as if confirming that the meeting was imminent. Mira's thoughts drifted briefly to the loneliness she had endured. Years without human contact, years of hiding and observing, all led to this moment. She imagined the human, Kale, drifting alone, feeling lost, desperate, afraid. She felt a connection, a bond born of shared experience, shared survival. In the vast emptiness of space, this connection was powerful. It was a reason to keep going, to continue risking everything for the chance to meet another human alive.
Suddenly, a shadow moved past the viewport.
Mira froze. The drones were back, searching the area again. She held her breath, waiting, calculating. They passed, leaving her untouched for now. She moved quickly, silently, following the signal. Her heart pounded, adrenaline sharp in her veins. Every step was a risk, but she could not stop. The other human was close, and survival demanded action, not hesitation. Mira reached the docking bay, preparing for the final approach. The signal was almost fully coherent now, guiding her precisely. She adjusted the engines, maneuvering carefully. The wreck offered cover, but it also limited movement. Every decision mattered. She aligned the docking ports, bracing herself for any sudden interference. The pulse of the signal grew stronger, almost as if confirming the other human's presence. Her hands moved steadily, executing the plan she had rehearsed in her mind countless times. At last, Mira entered the central chamber of the wreck. There, she saw movement. A figure, cautious, alert, scanning the area. He was alone, fragile yet determined, mirroring her own struggle. Their eyes met. Recognition sparked instantly. The signal had brought them together. Both had survived against impossible odds, and here they were, finally face to face. Words were unnecessary. The mere presence of another human in the void was enough. They approached each other slowly, cautious yet filled with relief. Mira extended her hand, and he nodded, lowering his guard. The reunion was tense, emotional, and fragile. They shared brief stories, fragments of survival, each revelation deepening the bond. The wreck around them was a dangerous place, a reminder that their moment of connection could be fleeting. But for now, they had found each other. Hope had been realized in the silence of space. As the emergency lights flickered, they worked together to stabilize the wreck systems. Their movements were synchronized, precise, born of necessity and instinct. Every adjustment, every calculation, was a step toward survival. The aliens were still a threat, but together they had a chance. Alone they were prey. Together, they could endure. The signal had led Mira to Kale, and now side by side they could begin to plan their next move. The silence of space remained, vast and indifferent, but it was no longer empty. Two humans had found each other, and in that connection lay strength. Mira and Kale exchanged brief glances, sharing a wordless understanding. The station's systems hummed faintly, providing a fragile sense of security. They knew that challenges lay ahead, but for the first time in years, they were not alone. Survival, once a solitary struggle, now had a partner. And in space, even the smallest connection could mean the difference between life and death. Hours passed as they coordinated repairs and shared supplies. The alien patrols remained distant, but the threat lingered like a shadow. Mira and Kale planned cautiously, knowing that their reunion was just the first step in a long struggle. They exchanged small stories, moments of humor, and observations about the stars outside. These simple human interactions were precious, reminders of what they had lost and what they could protect. As the distant star cast its dim light on the station, Mira and Kale stood together, watching the emptiness of space. They felt a fragile hope, a spark of life in a universe that had sought to erase them. The signal had reached its destination, and they had answered it. The reunion was real, tangible, and powerful. In the silence of space, two humans had found each other, and in that discovery lay the possibility of survival, connection, and resistance against the dangers that lurked beyond the stars. The alien wreck drifted slowly, its broken shape turning against the distant stars. Inside, Kale and Mira moved carefully through the dark corridors. The air was cold and thin, and every sound echoed too loudly. They knew they could not stay here for long. Alien patrols were still searching the region, and the wreck, while hidden, was not safe forever. Yet something inside the wreck had drawn them deeper, something neither of them could ignore. Kale studied the walls as they walked. Strange markings covered the metal, carved deeply, not decorative but purposeful. Mira noticed them too. She slowed her steps and touched one of the symbols with her glove. The markings were warnings. She recognized some patterns from her years of observation. This ship had not simply been destroyed, it had been abandoned in fear. Whatever happened here had frightened even the aliens. They reached a central chamber where the gravity fluctuated weakly. Broken equipment floated slowly in the air. In the center of the room was a large console, cracked but still powered by a faint energy source. Mira approached it first, careful not to trigger any alarms. Kale watched the corridor behind them, his senses sharp. He had learned to expect danger from silence. Mira activated the console. The screen flickered, then stabilized, showing lines of alien data mixed with human symbols. Kale stepped closer, surprised. Humans had been here before, not as prisoners but as observers. The data logs were fragmented, but the meaning was clear enough. Humans had studied the aliens long before the final attacks. They had learned their weaknesses, their fears, their patterns of thought. Kale felt a chill run through him. This wreck was not just a battlefield. It was a secret archive. Mira worked quickly, copying what data she could into her portable drive. Every second mattered. The information spoke of human adaptability, of how quickly humans learned and adjusted. It spoke of alien councils debating humanity, calling them unstable, dangerous, impossible to predict. Fear filled the words. As Mira worked, the wreck trembled slightly. Cale stiffened. He checked his scanner. Movement. Several small signals were approaching fast. Alien drones. They had found the wreck. Mira finished copying the data and shut down the console. They moved quickly now, but not recklessly. Panic was deadly. They followed a narrow passage that led deeper into the wreck, toward an escape route Mira had mapped earlier. The drones entered through the main hull, their movements silent and precise. Their light scanned every surface. Cale and Mira hid behind a collapsed bulkhead. They held their breath as a drone passed only meters away. Cale felt the vibration of its systems through the metal floor. He tightened his grip on a small cutting tool, knowing it would be useless against alien armor. Survival depended on staying unseen. The drone moved on. They waited longer, then longer still, until Mira gave a small signal with her hand. They continued moving, slipping through the wreck like shadows. The escape route led them to an old service hangar, barely intact. A small human shuttle was docked there, ancient but recognizable. Cale stared at it in disbelief. "How is this here?" he whispered. Mira shook her head. "Humans planned ahead," she said quietly. "More than we knew." They boarded the shuttle and sealed the hatch. The interior was cramped, dusty, and cold, but functional. Cale powered it on, holding his breath as the systems flickered. The engine responded with a weak hum. It was enough. As they detached from the wreck, alarms flared outside. The drones had realized something was wrong. Cale pushed the engines carefully, guiding the shuttle away without sudden bursts of power. They drifted at first, blending with debris, then slowly changed course. Only when the wreck disappeared behind them did Cale allow himself to breathe. Mira leaned back against the wall, exhaustion visible in her posture, but her eyes were sharp, focused. She looked at the data drive in her hand. "This changes everything," she said. Cale nodded. "They did not just fear us. They planned for us." The shuttle moved toward a dark region of space where the stars seemed thinner. Mira explained that she had avoided this area for years. The aliens rarely entered it. Long-range scans showed strange energy distortions. Humans avoided it too, out of fear and lack of knowledge. They entered the region slowly. The shuttle's sensors struggled, flickering and failing. Space here felt wrong, heavy. Cale adjusted the controls manually, relying on instinct more than instruments. Then they saw it. A massive structure floated ahead, half hidden by shadow. It was not alien. It was human. The design was old. Older than the colonies, older than most recorded history. Thick armor plates covered it, scarred by time. No lights were visible, no signals. It looked dead. Mira felt her throat tighten. She had never seen anything like it. "This was built to hide," she said. "To wait." They approached carefully, scanning for movement. Nothing responded. Cale guided the shuttle to a docking port that opened only after he transmitted a simple human identification code. The port accepted it. Inside, the structure was dark but intact. Emergency lights activated as they entered, bathing the halls in soft white light. The air was breathable. Life support systems, ancient but alive, hummed around them. They walked through long corridors filled with sealed doors. Symbols on the walls told stories of preparation, of sacrifice. Humans had known this day might come. They had built places like this to survive it. In a central chamber, they found a large map of the galaxy. Human systems blinked faintly across it, scattered and dormant. Most were dark, but some pulsed slowly, still alive. Mira realized the truth then. Humanity was not gone. It was sleeping. Cale felt a mix of awe and anger. "They hunted us because they were afraid of this," he said, "afraid of what we might become." Before they could explore further, the structure's sensors activated. Alerts filled the room. Alien ships were entering the region. Not drones this time. Warships. The aliens had followed them. Mira's mind raced. "This place cannot defend itself," she said. "Not yet." Kale looked at the map. One system pulsed brighter than the rest. A human stronghold far away, but reachable. "We run," he said, "and we carry this truth with us." They returned to the shuttle as the structure began shutting down, hiding itself again. Kale launched them away just as alien ships emerged from the darkness. Energy beams cut through space, missing them by narrow margins. Kale pushed the engines beyond safe limits. The shuttle shook violently. Mira held onto the console, feeding him coordinates from the map. A sudden jump, uncontrolled but desperate, tore them out of the region. Silence followed. The stars returned normal and calm, as if nothing had happened. The shuttle drifted, damaged but intact. Kale and Mira looked at each other. They had escaped, but now they carried knowledge that made them targets. They were no longer just survivors. They were messengers. And somewhere in the galaxy, humanity was waiting to wake up. The shuttle drifted quietly through open space, its systems barely holding together after the uncontrolled jump. Inside, Kale and Mira worked in silence, checking damage, sealing small leaks, and rerouting power. Neither spoke much. The truth they had discovered weighed heavily on them. Humanity was not dead. It was hidden. And now the aliens knew they were close to something important. The stars outside looked calm, almost peaceful, but Kale knew that calm meant danger. The aliens never rushed. They watched, learned, and waited. He studied the sensors carefully. There were no ships nearby, no clear signs of pursuit, yet he could not shake the feeling that they were being guided, pushed toward something unseen. Mira broke the silence. "This jump," she said slowly. "It was too clean. We should have come out damaged worse than this." Kale nodded.
"You think they let us go?" "Yes," she replied.
"Or they wanted us to go somewhere specific." They followed the coordinates from the ancient map, moving toward the system that still pulsed with faint human energy. The journey took days. During that time they spoke little but observed everything. Strange signals appeared and vanished. Gravity shifted in small, unnatural ways. It felt like moving through a net, not open space. When the system finally came into view, both of them froze. A shattered moon orbited a dying planet. Its surface cracked open like a broken shell. Pieces of rock floated around it in slow motion. Energy readings spiked and dropped without pattern. The place felt wrong, but also familiar, as if human hands had shaped it long ago. "This is it," Mira whispered. "This is where the signal comes from." As they approached, old human systems activated. Docking lights flickered on, weak but welcoming. The shuttle moved into a wide opening carved deep into the moon. Inside was darkness, thick and heavy. Once they were fully inside, the entrance sealed behind them. Kale turned sharply. "That was not automatic?" "No," Mira said. "That was a lock." The shuttle powered down without command. Lights dimmed. Silence filled the chamber. For a moment, Kale thought the moon itself was dead. Then the walls began to glow faintly, revealing a vast interior space. Human structures stretched in all directions, old but strong. This place had been built to last. They stepped out carefully. The air was breathable. Gravity was stable. Whoever made this place knew what they were doing. As they moved forward, holographic displays flickered to life, showing fragments of human history. Warnings. Plans. Records of evacuation routes that were never used. Mira stopped in front of one display. It showed human leaders arguing, not in panic, but in cold focus. They spoke of extinction as a possibility, not a certainty. They spoke of patience. "This place is a trap," Kale said quietly. "Not for us." "For them?" Mira answered. Suddenly, alarms sounded, not loud, but deep and heavy, vibrating through the structure. Kale's scanner lit up with multiple contacts. Alien warships had arrived outside the moon. They were surrounding it, sealing the area. Mira clenched her jaw. They followed us here. They wanted us to activate this place, Kale said, to confirm it was real. The moon trembled as energy weapons struck its surface. Dust fell from the ceiling, but the structure held. Ancient shields activated, pushing back the attacks with quiet strength. The aliens paused, surprised. Kale and Mira ran deeper into the facility, following arrows that appeared on the floor. The place seemed to guide them, reacting to their presence. Doors opened before they reached them. Systems woke up, one by one. They entered a massive chamber at the core of the moon. At its center stood a tall structure, covered in inactive panels and dark screens. Mira recognized it from old theories. A human failsafe, she said. Not a weapon. Something bigger. Kale approached it slowly. The moment he touched the surface, the structure responded. Light spread across it like fire under ice. A calm human voice filled the chamber. Human presence confirmed, it said. Contingency protocol ready? Outside, the alien ships intensified their attack. Inside, the moon powered up further. Energy surged through hidden channels. The aliens were trying to break in before whatever was waking could finish. Mira accessed the control interface. Her face grew pale as information flooded the screen. This system connects to everything, she said. Old stations, dormant ships, hidden factories. It can wake them all. Kale understood immediately.
And once we do, there is no hiding again. The voice spoke again. Activation requires manual confirmation.
Human life signs must remain inside until completion. Mira looked at KL. The meaning was clear. Someone would have to stay. Before either could speak, the chamber shook violently. A breach warning flashed. The aliens had found a weak point. Time was running out. Kale took a slow breath. You run, he said. You carry this forward. Mira shook her head. We decide together, the voice interrupted. 2 human signatures detected. Probability of success increases with separation. Outside, the shields began to fail. Mira's eyes burned with anger and fear. They hunted us because they fear choice, she said. Because we do not think the same. Kale smiled faintly. Then let us prove them right. He pushed her toward the exit path that lit up behind her. The system responded instantly, sealing routes, guiding her back toward the shuttle bay. Mira resisted, but Kale held her gaze. Humanity needs witnesses, he said. Not ghosts. The chamber doors began to close. Mira ran. As she reached the shuttle, the moon shook with massive impacts. Alien boarding forces cut through outer layers, flooding in. She launched just as explosions ripped across the surface. Inside the core chamber, Kale stood alone. The system reached full power. Across the galaxy, dormant signals stirred. Outside, the aliens finally understood this was not a tomb. It was a door. Kale stood at the center of the massive moon chamber, watching as the human system awakened around him. The panels that had been dark for centuries glowed brightly, streaming data across the networks. The moment was quiet, almost holy. He could feel the power of preparation. The decades of planning humans had hidden in secret. The facility was designed not to destroy, but to rebuild, to reconnect. Mira's shuttle drifted outside, invisible to the alien fleet still circling the moon. From her vantage, she could see flashes of energy, shields activating and deactivating across distant systems. The galaxy had been asleep, waiting for this moment, and now the signal from the moon's core had begun to pulse outward, like ripples across a vast ocean. Human stations, ships, and factories, long dormant, were awakening. Inside the chamber, Kale activated the final sequence. The central console hummed as power surged into long silent networks. Automated systems came online, holographic displays showing human stations waking across the galaxy. Some were faint, some strong, but each pulse carried life, intelligence, and potential. Kale realized that humanity was returning, slowly but surely, guided by the infrastructure left behind by those who had prepared centuries ago. The alien fleet outside reacted immediately. They had expected to find only 2 humans vulnerable and weak, not a coordinated awakening of entire systems. Their ships shifted positions, weapons charging. Commanders argued over communications channels, disbelief and fear evident in their tones. Humans had been underestimated, misjudged. They had believed humans would remain scattered, unorganized, powerless. Now, their calculations were failing. Kyle monitored the connections carefully. Each awakened station sent back confirmation, data, and readiness signals. Automated ships powered on, old defensive systems activated, and ancient factories prepared for production. The facility itself began transmitting long-range signals, coordinating the scattered networks. Kale felt a surge of hope and responsibility. This was humanity's chance to reclaim its place, to stand against the threat that had nearly extinguished it. Mira maneuvered her shuttle closer to the moon, her sensors detecting unusual activity. Alien ships had begun targeting awakened human stations. Laser beams and plasma cannons struck, some destroying infrastructure, but many systems responded automatically, shielding themselves and counterattacking. The awakening was faster than the aliens anticipated. Each system seemed connected, adaptive, unpredictable. Human ingenuity, long thought extinct, was alive again. KL activated secondary defense protocols inside the moon. Automated turrets, energy barriers, and decoy systems came online. Aliens attempting to breach the core were repelled, their ships damaged by unexpected countermeasures. Kale realized the true scale of what had been prepared. Humans had built more than hiding places. They had created a network capable of surviving, resisting, and responding. Even without direct leadership, the systems functioned intelligently. In the shuttle, Mira watched with awe as several dormant ships activated. They lifted off from hidden stations, their engines glowing faintly, ready to join the human network. The aliens fired relentlessly, trying to stop the awakening, but the humans' timing and coordination were far beyond what the enemy had imagined.
Each pulse, each activation, strengthened the others.
The galaxy for a moment seemed alive with the quiet, hidden resilience of a species once thought nearly extinct. Kale continued inputting commands, guiding the network carefully. Some systems required manual activation, and he had to make hard choices. Which systems would he bring online first? Which regions were too compromised to trust? His mind raced, calculating probabilities, considering the potential for success and failure. Every decision carried weight. Every choice could tip the balance between survival and destruction. Outside, Mira observed alien ships retreating in frustration. They had underestimated humans. Their calculations were failing. Even heavily armed warships were unable to break the shields or destroy the autonomous defense systems before more human networks joined the fray. Communication lines between aliens were filled with urgency, disbelief, and fear. Humans, they realized too late, were not just survivors. They were strategists, engineers, and warriors united by centuries of preparation. Kale and Mira exchanged brief communications through the network. They shared updates, calculated risks, and coordinated responses. Their trust in each other had grown, strengthened by experience and necessity. Together they managed to prioritize systems, ensuring that the most strategic locations were reinforced first. Energy grids, shipyards, orbital defenses, and command stations all came online, each reinforcing the others. The awakening was now unstoppable. Aliens attempted to concentrate their firepower on key stations, hoping to isolate and destroy them. But human systems were adaptive. Shields shifted, energy redirected, countermeasures activated automatically. Old stations that had remained hidden for centuries responded to new threats with precision and efficiency. The aliens realized that every strike they launched revealed another hidden system, another countermeasure, another network ready to act. Panic spread through their fleet. Kale moved to the next stage of activation. Hidden human factories began producing drones, ships, and supplies. Automated transport ships began moving resources to strategic locations. Humans were rebuilding faster than the aliens could destroy. Every success increased Kale's confidence. Every failure was minimized by redundancy, planning, and the sheer adaptability of human systems. He marveled at the foresight of those who had built this network, those who had prepared humanity for a day like this. Mira piloted her shuttle to join an activated fleet of human ships. Pilots long thought lost or extinct were being awakened through training simulations and automated guidance systems. The fleet assembled quickly, ready to challenge the alien forces that had hunted humanity for generations. The aliens had expected scattered, weak survivors. They faced instead a coordinated, adaptive, and dangerous human resurgence. Fear was evident in their movements. Kyle accessed additional systems within the moon, sending long-range communications to hidden human colonies across the galaxy. Many had not been touched in centuries. Some systems were fragile, others robust, but the activation signal reached them all. One by one they responded, confirming readiness. Automated defenses, shipyards, and supply chains began functioning again. The human network was growing exponentially, creating a force the aliens had not accounted for. Mira observed the battlefield from orbit. Alien ships were attempting to retreat, but many were trapped by human orbital defenses. Automated drones harassed them relentlessly. Each maneuver they attempted to escape was met with a counteraction. Human technology, once dormant, now adapted in real time, outpacing alien strategy.
The aliens had underestimated the humans' ingenuity, resilience, and foresight. Inside the moon, Kale continued monitoring all systems. Energy readings, defense matrices, and communication channels flowed through his console. He felt the weight of responsibility. Every system, every station, every ship depended on the choices he made. The awakening was a success, but it was fragile. Coordination, strategy, and adaptation were key. One misstep could expose weaknesses, but Kale had faith in the design and in human ability to survive against impossible odds. Outside, Mira guided ships to critical locations. Strategic points, vulnerable stations, and vital trade routes were reinforced. Human networks began acting as one organism, adapting to alien attacks with speed and intelligence. The galaxy was waking up, and the aliens were being forced to retreat in confusion and fear. Humanity, thought nearly extinct, was returning with a force that could not be ignored. Kale activated the final sequence within the moon's core.
A wave of energy pulsed outward, connecting every hidden human system. The network became self-aware in small ways, capable of adapting, coordinating, and responding without direct control.
The activation was complete. Humanity's hidden power had awakened, stretching across the galaxy in a coordinated response. The aliens, now fully aware, were faced with a reality they had not planned for. Mira watched as fleets of human ships once thought lost moved to defend key systems. Automated drones coordinated strikes against alien formations. Hidden weapons fired with precision. The galaxy's balance was shifting. The human survival strategy, built in secret over centuries, was proving unstoppable. Every network, every station, every ship worked in harmony, guided by planning, resilience, and foresight. Kale and Mira exchanged a brief, knowing look. They had done more than survive. They had reignited humanity's presence in the galaxy. The challenge was far from over, but the momentum had shifted. Humans, once hunted and scattered, were now awakening to reclaim their place. The aliens, realizing the scope of the human network, retreated strategically. Their confidence shaken, their calculations failing, they understood that humans could no longer be underestimated. Humanity was alive, adaptive, and dangerous. Kale and Mira together had not only survived but had become the catalysts for a rebirth. In the quiet aftermath of the initial awakening, Kale monitored the network stability. Automated systems reported readiness, defenses were active, and communication lines pulsed with new human activity. Mira piloted her shuttle alongside awakened fleets, ensuring coordination. Together, they watched the galaxy begin to respond to humanity's return. The aliens had learned a harsh lesson. Humanity, thought nearly extinct, had returned stronger, smarter, and united in ways they could not anticipate. Kale and Mira understood that the coming days would test their resolve, strategy, and courage. But they had achieved the impossible. The hidden humans had awakened, and a new era was beginning. The galaxy was alive with movement. Human ships, once scattered and dormant, now navigated space with purpose. Sensors across hidden stations pulsed in coordination. Kale and Mira stood on the bridge of a newly awakened command ship, watching the stars as fleets formed. The alien forces were regrouping, heavy and cautious, aware now that humans were no longer scattered prey but a rising threat. Every moment counted. Kale studied the holographic display. Alien warships were attempting to form a blockade around several key human systems. Mira adjusted the ship's course, bringing them closer to the nearest fleet. "They are trying to isolate parts of us," she said. "We cannot allow that." Kale nodded. "We need to strike decisively, show them we are coordinated." The human fleet responded immediately. Ships from long-dormant systems activated their engines, linking with nearby stations and creating a networked formation. Automated defense drones took position, scanning for alien signatures. Kale marveled at the speed of adaptation. The systems were designed to respond, but the humans' instinct and planning made them more than machines. They were thinking, reacting, surviving. Mira piloted the command ship alongside other human vessels, the glow from the engines casting soft light inside the bridge. She communicated with several fleet commanders, coordinating formations, defense lines, and attack vectors. Each station added to the network, feeding data back in real time. The aliens would not find a weak point. Every move they made would be countered before it could succeed. Suddenly, an alert sounded. Alien stealth ships had broken through sensors, appearing close to a key station. Kale and Mira acted instantly. Energy beams cut across space as automated defenses activated, surrounding the stealth ships. Kale guided countermeasures through the network, synchronizing with every station nearby. The alien ships were forced to retreat, their plans disrupted. The humans were too fast, too coordinated, too unpredictable. Outside, the battle unfolded. Human fleets, once hidden and silent, now moved like one organism. Every ship, drone, and station communicated through the ancient network, responding to threats with precision. The aliens tried to overwhelm one system, then another, but each attack revealed more human defenses, more ships, more hidden stations. The awakening had created a force beyond their expectations. Kale observed patterns on the holographic map. "They are learning," he said. "They adapt quickly, but we adapt faster." Mira's hands moved swiftly over the controls. "We have to exploit that. Force them into a trap." The command ship adjusted its trajectory toward a region where several human systems intersected. It was narrow, enclosed, ideal for a defensive strategy. The aliens followed, thinking they could corner the humans. Instead, they found themselves surrounded. Automated mines activated in precise formations. Energy barriers emerged from dormant stations, and hidden fleets appeared from behind asteroids and debris fields. The alien ships panicked. They had underestimated humans again. Their calculations had assumed disorganized survivors, not a coordinated network capable of thinking, reacting, and adapting in real time. Kale smiled faintly. This was the power of preparation, foresight, and resilience. Inside the command ship, Mira monitored energy levels. Defensive shields held while attack vectors were precise and calculated. Kale input commands to focus fire using both newly awakened ships and automated drones. The aliens' front line began to crumble. Retreat signals appeared in their channels, but chaos had spread too far. The humans were unstoppable, yet Kale knew the danger was not over. Alien commanders would adapt if given time. They would find another strategy, perhaps more dangerous. He accessed the network's deeper systems, bringing online advanced human stations that had remained dormant. These were experimental, long hidden, with technologies unknown to the aliens. Once activated, they could change the tide even further. Mira watched the battlefield from the bridge viewport. Energy beams, explosions, and flashes of ship movements painted the void with color and light. The scale of the conflict was immense, yet humans moved with grace, with intelligence, and with purpose. Each victory fueled confidence. Each countermeasure demonstrated ingenuity. The aliens, despite their strength, were losing ground. Kale activated a communication link across the network.
All units, hold formation. Focus fire on high-priority targets. Protect the awakened stations at all costs. Humanity will not fall again. The fleet responded with precision. Automated systems relayed commands, targeting alien ships that attempted to break lines. Human ships adapted in seconds, firing, maneuvering, and coordinating with drones. Every alien strike was countered before it could cause serious damage. The awakening had turned scattered survivors into a single deadly organism. Suddenly, Mira detected a massive energy surge. A large alien command ship had entered the battlefield, stronger and more advanced than any they had faced. It fired a powerful energy beam at a critical station. The station shuddered, alarms blaring. Kale acted instantly, redirecting defensive energy from nearby systems to absorb the impact. The beam was partially neutralized, but the station sustained damage. Kale recalculated. We need to isolate that ship. Draw it away from the network. Mira maneuvered the command ship, leading the alien flagship toward a region with artificial debris fields and hidden mines. Human drones and small fleets followed strategically, creating a controlled trap. The alien ship pursued aggressively, thinking it could dominate, but every move was anticipated, every path blocked. The trap closed around it. Energy barriers activated, mines detonated, and drones attacked from all sides. The alien flagship struggled to maneuver, its shields failing under coordinated strikes. Kale and Mira coordinated every action, ensuring precision. The alien ship was neutralized, destroyed in a controlled sequence that minimized risk to the network. The remaining alien forces, seeing the flagship destroyed, began to retreat. Chaos spread among their ranks. Humans had proven strength, coordination, and resilience beyond anything the aliens expected. The network pulsed, each station, ship, and drone contributing to a victory that seemed impossible only days ago. Kale took a deep breath. We've done it, he said, though he knew the war was far from over. The aliens will regroup, but now they know they cannot control or underestimate us. Mira smiled faintly, exhausted but relieved. Humanity has returned, she said. We're alive, and we're ready. Across the galaxy, hidden stations reported readiness. Dormant fleets activated. Human colonies that had been asleep for centuries sent their first communications in generations. The awakening was complete. Humanity, thought nearly extinct, was now a coordinated, powerful presence in the galaxy. Kale and Mira stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. The battle was won, for now. But the war was ongoing. The aliens would return, stronger, smarter, and more determined. Yet humans had regained hope, resources, and coordination. The network was alive, adaptable, and ready to fight again. In the silent expanse of space, Kale sent a message to every awakened station. We survived. We adapted. We are human. We will not fall again. Mira adjusted the command ship's controls, guiding their fleet back toward the nearest human stronghold. She looked at Kale. This is just the beginning. He nodded. But now, we face it together. The stars stretched before them, vast and infinite. Humanity had awakened. And in the silence of space, two humans had found each other and sparked a resurgence that would change the galaxy forever.